So for this example, I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to show you doing a word with your vanishing point below the word. So again, we're going to see the bottom of each letter, but I also wanted to show you how you can use cursive. So that way, for those of you who want to use some sort of fancy lettering, I'm going to be showing you how you can put that into sort of a shape format so that you can then still use the linear perspective part to add depth. So same thing, you're going to start with your word written sort of big and sort of loose so that your lines go further apart than they would in typical cursive. And then I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to add sort of an outline. But this time my outline is going to go around like the whole shape of the word rather than just individual letters. So again, the thickness or thinness is up to you, but you can see here they go into the O that's just going to connect across. And then I'm basically just going to go around this way and then move right into the M. So this is just all the thickness and depth that's going to be added to the top. Portion there. And now I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom. So you'll see that my lines are a little bit sketchy right now, and that's fine because once I get them all drawn in and I get the depth on there using my linear perspective, I can then go over the whole thing with a pen and smooth it all out using a slow, even, steady line that is just one steady line instead of being a bunch of little hash marks. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the inside of some of those areas. And then I'm going to erase, once again, the original sort of line part of my word so that I am left with a cursive shape. Because now I can use my vanishing point and turn that shape into something that uses linear perspective, but also, oops, forgot to do this one, but also is actually the word that I need for my visual pun. So this is the word home, which I don't think any of you are using specifically, but it will still get the same purpose and the same idea across, and it uses a bunch of good cursive letters. So I wanted to make sure I included those in the video. So now I've got the word home and it is turned into a shape. My vanishing point is down below my letter and I've got my ruler ready. And I know that I'm going to be using a lot of curves because it is cursive, but there are still going to be a couple of corners and points as well. Remember, I'm going to check all of them, but this one will start inside of my letter, so I'm not going to draw that. This one starts outside the letter. This bottom curve of my H, I'm going to use the outer edge and go back. And then this corner between the H and the O, I'm going to draw as well. So each time you go to a new letter, there might be sort of like a connection like that. And you're going to want to make sure that you check the corner there also. Now, when I'm working in cursive, as you can see, I tend to just do the whole thing all at once and treat it like its own big shape instead of each letter on its own. So like here, for instance, I did the same thing. Between the O and the M, I've got a point, which is going to start outside of that O. It actually lines up with this part of the M, which is ironic. And at this point, I could then bring this down a little bit more so that they don't line up. because for some of you that will just make things a bit easier. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with simplifying or changing your letters to make it easier for you to make sure that you are doing the linear perspective part properly. Absolutely fine. So checking all those corners, knowing that I'm going to probably see parts of the inside of the M up here, but there's nothing to really draw with that. Then I'm going to use this part of my M here to show sort of the outer edge of the curve here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. This corner starts on the inside there, so I'm not going to draw that one back. But then my corner on the outer part of my E here, I'm going to draw back. But then that top part goes inside first, so I'm not going to draw that. So that might be all the lines I need for the bottom portion. So now I'm just going to go in and add some of the lines I need for the top. Because I'm going to have a line going from the outer edge of the top of that H back. And then again on the bottom edge of this O, the sort of loop here. And then I'm going to check all of my points and all of my curves on the M. But it looks like so far, most of them start inside of the letter. This one barely is visible, but then the rest of them start inside the letter because your vanishing point is almost directly below the M. So you're pretty much only going to see the bottom of the M. The E, I'm going to go ahead and check these curves. The outer edge here, you're not really going to see much there. So I'm not even going to draw that one in because it, again, lines up with the vanishing point. And then this part, we're not going to see the top of simply because we see the bottom of it, the whole thing. So now that would be all of the diagonal lines that I need for the word home in linear perspective. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add sort of my thickness there, add the depth, which is going to turn it into a form. So again, this part of my H is going to continue across. So this basically goes across and goes up, parallel with that whole curve here. So you can make that a little bit thinner if you want to. You can make it thicker so that it goes behind this part. I'm going to actually make mine just a smidge thinner so that you can see it a little bit better. And then erase the draw through, erase my first line. I'm not going to erase any diagonal lines quite yet, simply because I want to make sure I get all of the depth in there first. And then I'm going to draw this line because we are going to see the bottom of this part as well. And then this is actually going to come down because we will see a little bit of the side here. I did forget to draw that line in, the one that goes right there. Forgot to draw that line in because we will see the side of the H here before the sort of this part comes in front of it. And then I did forget to check that corner. Sorry about that. That edge. So that this is going to curve down parallel till it gets about here. And remember, I'm going to stop it about here because down here, I'm going to see the bottom part of that H. And then here is going to be parallel again to the front and curve up. But once again, I'm going to stop once I get to about here because of where the side here starts. So it's going to be kind of like that. And then this is going to go across. It's going to go behind my M and come up with a nice parallel curve to the front. And I'm going to erase anywhere where it goes behind that M. And then since the connection point here is directly behind this, this whole space in here is going to become the bottom of this part of my M. So I'm just going to leave that. And then this curve is going to be parallel to this little part. But again, it's going to go behind the front of my O. So we're just going to see part of it. And then this part is going to be parallel to the front here. We're going to see that come across. And see a little bit of the side there until we get to about the point where the bottom starts. And then my M is going to come across parallel to the front. And then it's going to go up parallel to the front. And it's going to go behind this part of the M. And then this is going to come down parallel to the front. And then go up. And again, go behind this part of the M. Which then is going to have its own little curve to show the bottom and the back of that part of the M. And then that's going to come across from the E. And just be parallel here to show basically the whole bottom of the E. And then this part, we're just going to see, it's going to be pretty thick. We're just going to kind of see that whole bit there. And then you see some of the inside here, but it's deep enough that it's basically the whole thing is going to be shading here and here are the same way. On this one, it's a bit different because you can see the side and you can see where that side ends. So this would be the side that you see on this part, but then on the O and on the E, that whole inner little space is going to become part of the side that you see. So we'll talk a little bit more about those kinds of things as we get to those shading steps. But now I am ready to erase those diagonal lines that I no longer need. So remember, drawing in linear perspective on a cursive word is more challenging. It's definitely still possible. You just have to go a little slower and take your time a little more and maybe practice. And sorry that that video is a little bit fast. I wanted to be able to keep it all in one little 15-minute chunk to be able to get that on Google Classrooms for you guys so that you didn't have to watch it in multiple videos, because it's easier probably to just watch one video and pause it if you need, or replay it, follow along with it, whatever you need to do. So now once again, that is a word that had been turned into a shape and then turned into a form using linear perspective, which would then be ready for me to add other details, shading, coloring to. So the last video that I'm going to show you is going to be a word in linear perspective with your vanishing point on the left. And then I'll just add a couple more videos of no talking, but just kind of finishing up some of the other combinations that I have begun.